So welcome. Yes, it's interesting when people ask me, they're like, "You're a what?" I'm like, "I'm a storytelling coach for executives and entrepreneurs." And I'm like, what does that mean? It means that we are going to be looking at these stories that these four wonderful speakers are going to be bringing forward. These are stories that happen in their lives. And yes, we all tell stories, but the goal of the work that I do is I help transform it into what I show as the storyteller's mind movie. That's the difference between just being a storyteller and really learning the core skills that allow the listener to just lean in. They're just captivated. So as you're listening to each storyteller today, listen for the characters. See how their story arc goes. Listen for, and I want to say in some of these stories, a character can be a person, but it can also be an inanimate object. And being very, very wise and careful on what information they're putting in, because what we want to do when we're telling a really good story is we want to keep the communication train on the tracks. We want people to be following it and not getting confused because there's too many characters to keep track of, or you used a word and I don't know what it means. And now I'm not listening to you because I'm trying to figure out the word. There's a lot of things that go on that make storytelling great and then make storytelling confusing. So my work is I want to help you make it great. So these speakers today are using these stories right now. They are using these stories to help build their business, as Linda said. So I am going to introduce each speaker one at a time. And then when they're done, if you want to unmic, or as Linda said, put comments in the chat, that's really wonderful for them because they've worked really hard on these stories. And this isn't the only story that we found when we were doing our story mining session. They have several, but these were the ones that we decided for today for them to be able to show their skills would be the best choice. Okay. So I'm going to be doing a little sharing. So forgive me on a little awkwardness as you do a share screen, but I want to introduce our first speaker. So just real quick, I'm going to share my screen and let's go up here to see Lisa. Got me falling, tripping, calling, do it again. Okay, so we have Lisa Levy from Arizona, and Lisa is CEO of L Cubed Consulting. And she is someone that loves to disrupt things, and when things are broken, she thrives. She fixes projects that make people have headaches, and they go to joy when they start working with Lisa. She's a published author. She's a fabulous woman, and I am so excited to bring her on stage. She is going to be telling a story, a very personal story. And when you're listening to Lisa's story, pay attention to how she controls the characters that are in there, but she's also going to do something very sophisticated in storytelling that a lot of people don't do very well, and it's time travel. So watch her move in and out of scenes in her life as she's time traveling, the lessons that she's going to find in this story that we call Free Fall. So everyone, please give it up for Lisa Levy.
Melissa, thank you so very much. I'm so happy to be here. I'm standing next to the love of my life, Dave. It's spring 2018, and he's hugging me close. He whispers into my ear, "Please, don't die." That's the plan. 30 minutes later, I have a Greek god strapped to my back. I'm looking 10,000 feet past my feet to the earth below, and Adonis screams over the wind deliberately, "Are you ready?" How the hell did I get here? 5 years earlier, it's Zach's birthday, Dave's oldest son. Our relationship is kind of new. And Zach is so proud, and he declares, on my 21st birthday, I want to go skydiving. I'll go with you. What a great idea. That sounds like so much fun. Dave's eyes bug out of his head like a Looney Tunes character. He walks away shaking his head. Later, he looks at me and he says, my son, he's a planner. Whatever. No. You made a commitment to him, and he is going to hold you to it. He's a teenager. This will be gone in a moment. Every year on Zach's birthday, the countdown continues. Hey, Lisa, in 4 more years, we're going skydiving. Hey, Lisa, in 3 more years, we're going to go skydiving. Buddy, you're 18. You're a legal adult. You do not need me to go skydiving. It's not about the skydiving, Lisa. It's about doing it with you when I'm 21. So we can go to the bar and have a shot of tequila when we live. I'm so ashamed. I'm devastated. I have just shattered a dream. I want to jump out of the airplane without a parachute right now. 3, 2, 1. I'm free falling. The earth is rushing up at me and I cannot even take a breath. I am so exhilarated. The parachute opens, and this is the most amazing thing I've ever done in my life. We get to the ground, we bump on my bottom across the dirt. Dave is there, Zach is there. We have a shot of tequila and we toast to life. In the story, there are several moments that matter. Times when I make a statement and I need to be accountable and follow through with those words. Zach, I want to go skydiving with you. There's also a point in time where the words I use matter more, when I use them to shatter a dream rather than lift up a young man. I also learned the power of free falling and embracing the things we cannot control. At L Cubed Consulting, we help our clients curate these journeys and these moments that matter. We use our tool set to help them align their people, their processes, and technology to ensure that they're delivering on their commitments to their clients.
Woo! All right. Lisa, Levy, thank you. Yeah,
Awesome.
all right. Let her hear it. Let her hear it. Oh, Lisa, how'd that feel?
That's so much fun.
It was so
I hope
fun.
it's as fun for the audience as it is for me to tell it.
Good. You know, you have some comments that are in the chat, like a dynamic, wow, chills, I'm going skydiving. So yeah, I think you've inspired people in a different way. Really, really well done watching you do this, because I know in your world, you spend a lot of time, as you said, and you can see the poster behind Lisa. I love this poster. She has the brain, and there's one side with a lot of data and analytics, and then there's the other side that has the creativity and the narrative. And I talk about this a lot in storytelling. In my book, it's, you know, a lot of analytical versus the creative, or left brain, right brain sort of science. How has this been for you, studying this very right brain, if you will, or, you know, emotional side of adding this into your work?
This is a game changer for me, right? I spend so much time in the data and the analytics. I am a process person by birth, right? I'm just a logical system thinker. In my coaching and my consulting practice, I work with my clients to move them into being on that right side of their brain, because when we push past our comfort zone and use more of our capability, that's where we find brilliance. And so this is me doing for myself what I help my clients do all the time, and really changing the narrative and making the story impactful, making it connect emotionally with people. And it has changed the adoption of videos that I'm recording and putting out on social media. My following on LinkedIn has grown. My business has grown. My clients, right? These stories hook, and they're authentic. They're real. Some of the ones that I tell are funny. Some of them are just, I do stupid stuff sometimes, and we just kind of have to own it. But I think that, you know, it's honest, and it touches and it connects.
And you know what? And it did. And listen to that, you all, because stories that show vulnerability, and sometimes being able to say, I tell stories where I'm the idiot in the story. And it's okay to do that, because it shows your realness and your humanness, right? And as a leader, especially for those that are younger than us, you know, being able to be brave and just say, yeah, there was a time I messed up, and I learned from it, right? Because everyone's walking this planet for hopefully decades and decades, and you are gathering data and gathering stories that you can share your wisdom. And that's why I love this free fall story. You had so many stories. We really battled out like which one you were going to tell. And I loved your sense of humor in it and your dialogue. So this is something, as you're watching the stories, did you notice how Lisa, when she was having conversations with her husband, did you feel like he was in the room with you? Because you could definitely see her talking and then him talking, and even her facial expressions changed when he was like, he's a planner. You know, I could feel your conversation with your husband, and I could feel your disappointment in yourself. And that's what was really, there were so many beautiful things that you did.
Thank you so much for letting me share the stage with this group today.
Oh, our pleasure. Our pleasure. Well, you can relax. You can go have a shot of tequila. You lived. You've lived.
Absolutely.
All right. So that was a story that had it happened over a series of years, and Lisa went over a series of 5 years in 3 minutes and 27 seconds. So she also was able to pitch, or present her company using that personal story about, follow through and having people trust you. So congratulations, Lisa. It's a great story, and I can't wait to see more from you out there in podcast land and whatnot. So congratulations. Okay. So our next storyteller, I'm going to do that quick share thing again because I want to introduce to you Dr. Noor Ali, who is coming from Florida. And Dr. Noor, when you look up the word resilience in the dictionary, she's so sick of hearing me say this, but when you look it up, Dr. Noor Ali's picture is there. Her story is just so breathtaking. And we call this story the path less traveled. And I think you're going to see why. Now, this story is her full, what we call her story fruition. So she is a doctor, but she's now in health insurance, and everyone wants to know how that path happened. So this is the longer story version, and watch again for the same thing, the characters and the time travel. And she actually is going to be traveling the globe in this story. And watching those smooth transitions. I am very excited about sharing Dr. Noor Ali with everyone. So please, everybody, please give it up for Dr. Noor Ali with the path less traveled.
I'm 5 years old, sitting on my grandfather's lap, and we're reading our favorite book together. It's Gray's Anatomy, the #1 anatomy textbook for medical students worldwide. I've got hearts in my eyes as I look up at my Dada. He looks down at me and says, "You're going to be a doctor someday, just like me, aren't you?" "Yes, Dada, I am." The wheels are in motion. My educational trajectory is fast-tracked and propelled into a track towards medicine. In middle school, I'm taking high school courses. In high school, I'm done taking advanced college courses. I'm 18 years old, about to start my college career living in the Big Apple, when I get a phone call. "Hello? Dada's died." "What?" My father looks at us and says, "We all have to move back to Bangladesh now." Before I know it, I'm standing in 118 degrees sweltering heat in the middle of my all-women's college campus in Bangladesh, this time clutching my very own Gray's Anatomy, when I'm tripping over chickens and goats. In New York City, I would have been eating this off a halal chicken and rice cart. "Dada, where are you? What is this? Where am I?" My world is upside down. I'm too skinny because I can't eat the food. I can't communicate with my peers. I'm struggling just to survive. The only thing that brings me comfort is my education. So I dive in deep. One of my professors recognizes my ambition and says, "Wow, you just timed 16 minutes and 30 seconds for this C-section. No one's ever done that before." I was on a roll. In my free time, I founded an internationally award-winning community project that serves free antenatal care to slum-dwelling women all over Bangladesh. My work was awarded on an international stage by the United Nations in 2014. I'm 23 years old, and in my final year of medical school, and love is the last thing on my mind. A man that I met 6 years earlier finds me halfway across the globe. He asks my father if we can go on a date. Sure, if you marry her. Okay, can I have some time to think about this? Yeah, I'll give you 15 minutes. That was on a Wednesday. By Friday evening, we were married. That road showed up pretty quickly, but I took it and I never looked back. The beginning of the road is rocky, filled with uneven potholes, long distance troubles, but I'm thriving in my surgical career. 2 years go by and it's time for me to move back to New York City to be with my husband. The road gets rockier. I was a superstar surgeon in Bangladesh, but in order for me to practice surgery in the States, I have to pass the United States medical licensing exams. On paper, I just look like a high school graduate. I'm mopping floors at my first job in America at a Subway sandwich shop. And all I can think about is this exam. To me, it's like this enormous fire-breathing dragon. I'm terrified. The heat of studying for this exam is melting my armor. I finally get my test results back. And it's not what I expected. I missed it by one question. Now what am I going to do? My paths just changed again. Hello, sunny Florida. I'm 26 years old, living with my in-laws, trying out different careers, and nothing makes me feel worthy. Until this opportunity for health insurance. Health insurance, they never taught this in medical school. I grab it and I dive in deeper. In my second week of training, I'm handed this medical underwriting guide. Amy, training next to me, is Googling and looking up terminology like cholecystectomy. It's cholecystectomy, resection of the gallbladder, indicated in cholelithiasis in some cases of chronic cholecystitis. It's like I'm reading Grey's Anatomy again, and I'm fluent in this language. And that's when I knew that my road just merged into my path. My medical career, my understanding of global healthcare systems, and now my experience in health insurance were now coming together to create the new Dr. Noor Healthcare Advisor, my very own personal brand. Since then, I've reinvented the customer experience journey for purchasing health insurance. Using my insider's lens, I work with trailblazing entrepreneurs and help them access quality, customizable health plans. The value that I bring to the table is my clinical know-how, so I can instantly evaluate what coverage you need, and sometimes more importantly, what you don't. I've traveled on many roads less traveled, but I have always trusted in myself that I'm going to figure it out. And that's the richness of life.
Woo! On mic.
Yeah,
All right.
awesome.
Wow.
Wonderful. Yeah.
Fantastic. Oh my gosh.
So many roads.
And so many emotions. I mean, up and down. That was incredible.
Oh, Dr. Noor, unmic, please, because we're going to have a little conversation about that.
Thank you. Okay.
How did that feel?
It felt really good. It felt like Linda, Melissa, we've been working for many weeks on this, and for it to come to fruition, and it's so concise and compact. I'm like, that was it. This is what we worked weeks to develop, and it was amazing that it just this result, this outcome was just beautiful to deliver finally.
I'm so happy. And I can just hear you on a podcast. So podcast hosts that have anything to do with health or insurance or anything like that, Dr. Noor Ali, she's ready to go. So, and all the speakers, quite honestly, but Dr. Noor, there's so many moments. And what is interesting when you are formulating a well-crafted story is it starts off rough, like we are just mining and finding all these little moments. And then my superpower, I guess, is I can be able to help you put it into the scene by scenes, and we do some weed whacking where we we take out characters, or we take out conversations that's not really serving the story, or it's going too long, and we really make it a concise story so that she can use this in a variety of ways. And what's really beautiful, and I wanted to show this full story fruition, is that she has several tiny stories now, and she can talk about living in New York and being like a super educated child that is gifted, and then go all the way over to, building a brand, right? So she has quite a bit of content that this story can help deliver for you. So how has business been since you've started? Because I know you have been using this on podcasts a little bit, and she's amazing on Instagram. Follow her, follow all of our speakers. What's happened since you started using more storytelling for your business?
Yeah. So what's interesting, Linda, is I didn't wait until we were kind of done creating my story. I was like, as I was learning, I was delivering, I was live practicing during my podcast and my live speaking engagements. And even though I was fumbling, it was just a huge impact. Even when the beginning, when I wasn't doing as great of a delivery as I did now, it was still so impactful because I was connecting with people's emotions, right?
Right.
Whereas before, we're talking about health insurance. It's such a boring and dry subject. Like, nobody wants to talk about it. But in this story, I'm still kind of talking about health insurance, but I've kind of weaved in my whole entire life journey into a few minutes. And it's just so much more impactful for me to find a way to deliver where I got from 5 years old to where I am now, and how it all ties together. And I just never thought that this was possible, because this is my life. Like, I never thought about it like a story or like a business, skill. But in fact, it is a business skill. And I think for the first time, I was able to kind of zoom out and have an out of body experience to see my life in a few minutes storyboard, which is so exciting. And for me to be able to skillfully present that to an audience, it's just mind blowing and so impactful.
Oh, wow. Well, I'm glad that you're using it. Yes. So a storyboard is something that we do use in this workshop. So once we are finding the scenes, we actually put it in a storyboard, like an animator would use, so that she can have a map of what her points are. Because I hope you're noticing, people are not reading. These are memorized stories, right? So the storyboard is a method that we use for memorization. And it's nice because you can literally go, I'm in scene 3, and you can kind of see it in your mind's eye of where you're going. So that was wonderful. There was also a moment, sometimes when we're telling stories, we can hit kind of a sensitive nerve, right? And when we got to the part where you did not pass the exam, that's still a little bit salty for you. And we had to get there carefully. So one thing in storytelling that's really important is you want to be telling a scar story, not a wound story. So if it still really hurts, it's probably not ready for public consumption, right? You want to be able to look back in time. In that particular moment, when we needed to get there, because in order for Dr. Noor to get to the next chapter in her life, we had to face that moment when you didn't pass the test. So in that moment, when you were feeling kind of vulnerable, we came up with that metaphor of the dragon. How did that help you get through it?
Oh, yeah, I would say it's a little bit more than salty. Like, it's a big, huge pain for me. Even when I was practicing for this event in my mind, and this is crazy, but I'm surprised that I even had the awareness to recognize it, is when I got to that part of the exam and the dragon, I just stopped. My mind just kind of blocked it, and I quit practicing because it was so hard for me to get through. And it still is so hard. When Melissa and I were working together, I think it was like a whole hour or half an hour that we had to stop, take breaks, pause, because I struggled so much to get through that part of my life. But developing this avatar, this character of the dragon, helped me because it was a metaphor, and we found a way to make that pain and condense it into a dragon and help move on. But it was really hard. I just want to say that, and it is still really hard now. But thanks to Melissa, she helped me get through that part of my life. And when we came up with the dragon, when we came up with this scene, I visibly felt better. So it was almost therapeutic in a way to finally work through this challenge in my life, and then, give birth to give blossom to this next chapter of my life. And I don't think I could have done it without this exercise of working through this, because in my mind, it's still a block. It's still like, I don't want to think about that time. I don't want to talk about that time. I think about it, this big fat failure, and I just can't overcome it. but only through these exercises was I able to metaphorically overcome it. And now I feel so much better.
Oh, that's wonderful. That's wonderful. But here's the thing, life is always unfolding. So
Yeah.
you don't know. I mean, you're proof that your path changes a lot, right? And so I commend you on that. But what was beautiful and in storytelling, where there's also an art to how you're going to orchestrate the emotions, right? So you're taking the journey with the audience, and we've got to give them a little relief. So when you got to the dragon scene, I could feel it. I think the audience, I mean, if you want to say something in the chat, like, could you feel that this was a tender moment for her? But then she went, hello, sunny Florida, right? And so she changed the vibration of the story, if you will, to bring it up. So she had to bring the audience up because we were kind of like, oh God, right? And that's really an important aspect to really good storytelling, is a nice balance between serious and funny, poignant, and it's silly. There's all things that we're going to be looking for in every story that we do. You saw that also with Lisa. She was moving humor in and out. Those were strategically placed, believe it or not, in the work. So congratulations. I am going to do a quick quiz. I said that there's recurring characters in stories, and we have 2 in Dr. Noor's. And if you can guess it, first person to guess it, there are 2 recurring characters in her story. One is a person and one is not. What is the not person in the story? And if you put it in, if you get it right, you can have a half-hour consultation with me. So it's worth a half hour if you want to talk about a story. And it's Grey's Anatomy, Chashane! She got it.
I got it.
She got the chicken. That was a good one. Yep, chickens came in. And those are known as breadcrumbs, by the way. Those are breadcrumbs in storytelling. So it's actually, so the Grey's Anatomy showed up 3 times. It was with Dada. And then when she was with the tripping over chickens, holding her own. And then the third one was when she was doing I love that scene when you are showing, I can't say the word, but when you tell Anne how to say it, like a doctor.
Cholecystectomy. Yeah.
Do the whole line again, just for kicks and giggles.
Okay, for kicks and giggles. Okay. It's my 2nd week of training, and I'm handed this medical underwriting guide. Amy next to me is Googling up words like cholecystectomy. It's cholecystectomy, resection of the gallbladder, indicated in cholelithiasis in some cases of chronic cholecystitis. It's like I'm reading Grey's Anatomy all over again.
Ah! Now, if that doesn't make you feel confident that she can help you with your health insurance, I don't know what does. So great. I love that. So thank you. And congratulations, Trishane. Half hour on you, or on me to you. Okay. All right. You can relax now, Dr. Noor. We're going to bring everyone up at the end to see if you want to ask particular questions. So if you do have an aching question to one of the speakers, there's going to be a chance for you to bring that forward. Okay, so we are going to do another intro. Now, our next speaker, hang on, I'm going to take off the sound on this. Okay, our next speaker is coming from Charlotte, North Carolina, and Denise Cooper has been coaching executives for over 16 years with her own company, remarkableleadershiplessons.com. She's an author of the book. It's wonderful. It's packed full of stories. In fact, this story is in there. But here's the thing that I've noticed is that I have a lot of authors that come forward who are now going to tell their stories on podcasts, right? Well, the way you write a story versus the way you tell a story are different. It's a different muscle. And so we have more obligation to make sure that we're painting the mind movie, because in storytelling, you don't get to go back and reread when you space out, when you're spacing out reading a book, you can go back and reread it because you might start thinking about something. In storytelling, you've got to keep the train on the tracks. And so Denise is a wonderful storyteller. This story, as you can see, is called Chemical Shift, and we will now give the floor to Denise Cooper, and she will present her story. So welcome, Denise. Thank you for being here, and away you go.
It was an ordinary day, and I was at the plant. I worked at a chemical plant in Muscatine, Iowa. And if you haven't been to Muscatine, Iowa, it's a small town, at least at that time. And I would say if at all, there were probably 25 Black people there. And if you haven't noticed, or you can't see because you're listening to this in an audio, happened to be about a 5'2" Black woman who is hard to miss when I walk down the street. But at any rate, I was walking past the cafeteria. It was an ordinary day, but it was eerily silent, and it caught my eye, my ear. And then all of a sudden I heard, and I backed up and I looked in, and there were maybe 6, 8 men sitting there at the cafeteria eating their lunches, but they were sniveling and sniffing. And then I looked over and I saw Jake, and Jake was crying. And I couldn't figure out. And then all of a sudden my eyes went up and I saw the monitor. And on the monitor was the video that we had taken at the plant picnic a couple of weeks ago. And here were these children looking into the screen, answering the question, what do you love about your daddy or your mommy? And here was this little girl with her smiling face going, I love my daddy because he plays ball with me. I love my mommy because she reads my books to me and she hugs me so nice. And I love the way she smells. My daddy picks me up and he swings me around and I feel like I'm flying. And I knew in that moment we had passed from our safety program being just another program to we were about to change lives. Well, 6 months ago, I'd been in front of the CEO with other HR people, and we were tasked with, we were not going to have any additional accidents at the plants. Now, I work at a chemical plant, and you may not have known what happens with a chemical plant, but he said very fervently, when we make mistakes, if we make mistakes, we have the potential of eliminating species. And so from this point forward, our mission is to eliminate any accidents. Well, we all looked at each other and went, he's got to be kidding. There's always going to be an accident. What the heck is this? A near miss accident, something. But that was the task. That was the impossible dream that our CEO said had to become real life. So now I'm looking here, seeing this. Well, 2 months earlier, Jake had been on the safety committee, and he was just a regular guy, like most of them, 6 foot, grizzly face, sharp blue eyes, but he was convinced this was just another corporate speak. Because as he told me before, you guys come in, you do your 2 years, you get out of here. You're a short timer. But I said, hey, Jake, we've got to get this done. And he went through the process. We had cards everyone filled out when an accident happened. We defined near misses as accidents, and you had to fill out a card then. But something wasn't changing. And what needed to change was we needed to change their hearts. So we decided to send that if you had a near miss at home or an accident at home, fill out the card and bring it in. Well, 2 months later, Jake brought in a card and he was mad. His wife had been cooking and she accidentally spilled a hot pot of water and he had to fill out the card. We needed to make a change. And it was at that moment we came up with the idea about the video. Once the video came, for 2 years, we had 0 accidents, none, not even a near miss. Many of you have decided to start your business because you have an impossible dream and you need to figure out how to make that impossible dream real. Capturing the hearts and minds of the people that you're with helps you figure out how to do that. In this particular one, we captured everyone's hearts. They changed their behavior. We did what the CEO said could not be done.
Yeah. All right. Thank you. Oh, Denise, thank you. So chemical shift. We found a lot of stories. And you have used this story quite a bit in your work. How has it affected your business with this particular story? Because it's rich. There's a lot of things in here. So I mean, this is about collaboration. This is about overcoming something you don't think you can overcome, climbing a mountain. Has anyone had that in their career? Have you ever had anything where you were like, I don't think I can do it? That's what this story represents. So remember, the reason why we're crafting these stories is so that you can use them when a podcast host or anyone asks you, hey, tell me a time. And you also interview people. Tell me a time when you had to overcome something. I think Denise has a story, right? And so all of you out there also do. And can or is it constructed like what Denise just did? So tell us a little bit about how you have used this story in your work since we crafted it.
So one of the good things about working, the work we did is I actually have like 15 stories that come up.
I know.
And the challenge is always going through the process each and every time. But each of this particular story has been very impactful because I use it in my leadership classes that I do for people to help them understand that no matter what their impossible dream is, they can achieve that if they think through really being vulnerable, really using emotions, really coming to the point where they see people move from process to actually being convicted and passionate about what happens. And so that it becomes a short or long metaphor in which people can begin to see, because people come to me as a coach because they've got an issue that they feel like is impossible to deal with.
Right.
So by being able to help them see that it isn't about the impossible dreams, it really is about changing your heart and mind that allows them to find the success that they need to find.
That's right. That's right. And storytelling is going to be the first connector to that emotional conduit. Yeah, for sure. I really love how you use your voice in storytelling. Right? Like you did a really nice job. And this is some of the voice work. It's the textures, that like when Jake was mad because his wife had burned her hand on the hot water, and he was mad, just the little things, these little subtleties. And your description of the gentleman, he's gruff. He looks like a linebacker. There was nice visuals, and you were putting those visuals in our minds. Do you find being the storyteller a powerful position?
Yeah, and it's interesting because I can tell the story either with video, or I can tell the story on the phone, or I can tell the story face to face. And I can hear when people shift to begin to just a little click of where they see where they didn't think they could do something. Now something might be possible.
Right. Right. And it allows, so when you break into storytelling, and again, it's not going to be every time, and I want to say this to the audience, not all stories are going to be 3 to 5 minutes. Some of them are going to be a few words. But when you start to learn how your words create images inside the person's mind, you can spice up a whole bunch of stuff. You can use this work, not just in media, media interviews. I have clients who are actually using some of this stuff for, believe it or not, a shareholders meeting. Now, if that isn't the most dry corporate speak, right? They have to speak a certain way. But now I have clients that are like, we can put in a little more imagery. We can warm this up a little bit more. And they are. And it's becoming a little more of an engaging, because there are times, you got to know your audience, right? And you got to know when and how much storytelling powers, if you will, should I use right now? And so that's really, really important. And you are in HR. So when you are interviewing people, you're always digging for stories, aren't you?
Yes. I'd say the interesting thing about this is that because of the work that I did with Melissa, I guess it's almost a year ago, right?
Yeah.
That I've been able to get better with the podcast, but also, my book of business is now full. Some of you might even know that I know, right? But it's because I use these stories. I just took on a job with Pack for You as their head of their HR. I use the storytelling there to help them connect. But every last one of you are here because you own a business and you want to know that when you invest your time, you're going to get a return on it. Well, I can tell you this work has helped me get 6 figures and a full book of business. So I didn't start with one. Okay.
Say it again. How much? No, that's wonderful. And that's what I'm hoping for, right? It's not just like, oh, let's have, I mean, we have a lot of fun in our sessions, but there's business goals in mind, right? And the return on investment's always at the top of the mind. So telling these stories and exercising them and taking these skill sets very seriously can absolutely, as you're hearing, change the trajectory of your own business growth. So congratulations, Denise, on your new position. I am so happy for you. They are so lucky to get you, and enjoy the journey. I know that you're going to be continuing to rack up more stories, you know, and I love that. So thank you.
Can I say one thing?
Absolutely.
I really want people to get that, you know, you build these things, and I know everybody else who's worked with it, they can be 15 minutes. And so the way I started my business was really more from the 15-minute section, now bringing it down to 3 minutes. And so they're almost like accordions.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Oh, absolutely. I mean, we had probably 4 different storyboarding documents, right? And within that document, we have stories from when she was a child and how her mother and her father raised her, and elements of their own leadership with her that have influenced her life. And so I always go back into childhood with clients to find out where those indicators are of things that changed and influenced them to be who they are today. We've all got them. But what are those little aha moments that are worth shining that spotlight on? Because a lot of times people don't even realize how valuable their own stories are. I hear that a lot, but I am proud to say, I think I've proven every single one of my clients wrong on that. They're starting to realize that their stories are valuable and they need to be shared, and there's a purpose to it. So Denise Cooper, congratulations. Thank you so very much. And thank you all for your comments. They really are wonderful, and they're very helpful to the speakers because they have been working so hard. Okay, we're on to our final speaker today. I'm very excited, so let me just get my intro card up. Let's see, hang on. And we have with us today, Teresa Hahn from Boston, Massachusetts area. And this story, prepare yourself, it's absolutely beautiful. And here is an example of a story where childhood leadership was thrust upon Teresa, or maybe I should say embraced. And it's a beautiful, beautiful story that we call Little Teacher. And without further ado, please welcome to the stage, Teresa Hahn. Thank you. Unmute.
I was 360 days old when my sister Kate was born. She's my Irish twin. I come from a family of solid and good Irish Catholic people. And Kate and I have been a team ever since, especially since Mom continued to bring babies home just about every year until I was 8. By then, there were 6 of us kids, Kate and me, then 2 more girls, and then a boy, and then another girl. I always wanted to hold the babies Mom brought home, but she said, "You're too young to hold them by yourself because they are way too squirmy." Our youngest sister, Roseanne, was born in the summer of '65. Roseanne was really small. I was only 8, and she was the first baby that I could hold all by myself, and she fit entirely into the crook of my arm. I remember her small face, her big brown eyes, full head of hair, and how every time I looked at her so deeply into her eyes, she looked back at me and she smiled. Mom said, "Honey, that's just gas." But I knew Roseanne saw me and we connected. When I would hold Roseanne, Mom would remind me to be careful. "Honey, she has a hole in her heart." What? A hole in her heart? How could that be? How do you get a hole in your heart, especially since it's on the inside? I didn't understand. And then shortly after school started, Mom and Roseanne went to the hospital again. They'd been going there a lot. And a few days later, Mom came home all by herself. And she looked so sad. Mom, where's Roseanne? Oh, honey, Roseanne has died. Her heart was too sick, and Roseanne's body just sort of went to sleep. But she won't wake up, and she's not going to come home again. And Mom started to cry. And then Dad put his arm around her. I didn't understand what died was. I couldn't figure it out. But I knew this was bad. I knew it was really bad. And I also knew I had to do something. So I told my Irish twin, my Kate, we are going to help Mom and Dad. We're going to help them with the little kids. We have to keep them busy. Will you help me? Yes, Kate said. She and I were such a team. So every day we played with the little ones. We chased after them. We colored with them. We played dolls with them. We even played trucks with my brother. We ran and did whatever Mom wanted to do. We got her the things she needed. Kate and I even picked up all their toys. They were so messy. They loved to throw things around. But we were on a mission. We were going to be the very best helpers. After Christmas, Mom stopped crying so much. And by then, Dad actually had gotten pretty good at taking care of the little kids. So Kate and I could do more things on our own. And then years later, Mom talked about that time with Roseanne and how she saw that even as a young girl, I stepped in when I was needed, and how she and Dad really appreciated my initiative, the drive, and insight into what I could do to help. And in my nonprofit coaching career, I encourage leaders to recognize when someone steps up to take on assignments, even beyond their expected ability. We're often surprised when we find resources and strengths in people who see that they can do extraordinary things. We just have to be open to it. Thank you.
Oh, Teresa, thank you. Oh, clap, 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 clap. Yay. Thank you. Okay, you did it.
That was amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing.
And it's a highly personal story, right? I
Mhm.
mean, the death of a sibling is not a light topic, but it's a serious one. So what was it like for you to go back and really craft this story with you and Roseanne and Kate? I want to do a shout out to Kate.
Yeah. Well, talking about Kate, it was the easy part because we are a team, which is fun. Talking about Roseanne was hard because I really miss her. And, I was trying, when we were working together, when we were talking about this, I couldn't find any pictures. I mean, both of my parents have now passed, and I couldn't find any pictures of her, which is really heartbreaking. And I wanted to present the story in a way that was dignified for my parents, because grief is very difficult and everyone deals with it in a very different way. And I didn't want anyone to think that my parents were encouraging or expecting an 8-year-old girl to pick up the slack for what they were trying to do. That's not the case at all. I mean, what did I do? I stepped into play. I didn't step in to clean the house. I didn't step in to cook the food or anything like that. But I found ways to keep other people busy. And I think the point of that is looking at finding the leadership skills in people when you don't expect it, because not all leaders come from the top. Sometimes leaders are in the mid-level ranks or even lower ranks. So you have to be able to be welcoming and accepting for as many people as possible.
Absolutely. I mean, it's no surprise with your young embracing of leadership that you did go into the nonprofit space, right? You've had a rich career, but you're now a nonprofit strategist. So tell us a little bit more about what you do and how storytelling may have been useful for you.
Storytelling is phenomenal because what it does is it helps to share the struggles, the trials, and the ways in which people can make a difference for other people in their community. I mean, I've worked in a number of different nonprofit organizations, and now with a consulting firm, I look at how can I share the information of the impact and the change that can happen because people step up to volunteer, because people step up to give to a charitable organization. There's so much difficulty in our world. People are hungry. The war in Ukraine. So many people have stepped up to give to that, and sharing those stories in a way in which people can see that even if they're only giving $15, $25, $150,000, what they're doing to make the difference, and how that difference is really helping, maybe not everyone, but certainly one family.
Right. Well, in the nonprofit space, storytelling is imperative also, because what we're doing is that so oxytocin comes out. There's neurotransmitters that occur when you're becoming a really good storyteller. Sometimes it's dopamine, sometimes it's serotonin. But this was an oxytocin laden story, and that opens the heart. It can also open the checkbooks in some cases for donors. And so executive directors out there, when you're doing your fundraising, make sure you have some amazing stories that you can report back to of the constituents that you are helping. Let us hear the journey of someone that you've stepped in, or your own journey, because that storytelling is really what will open people up even further in their support for what you're doing.
Yeah. Can I just say one thing?
Of course.
The working with you helped me restructure the way I tell the stories, because there's a scientific art with how to do it so that the story is really impactful and memorable. And I appreciate the way in which you led me to be able to reframe some of the things that I've been talking about.
My pleasure. I really, in this particular version, I really saw Roseanne. Yeah, you really described her. So I could smell her, like baby, everyone's like, you want to smell something good? Smell a baby's head. Like I could smell it. And those are the things that are happening to the listener out there, is that if you can describe something so well that the mind movie's going on and it's invoking all sorts of senses, and you don't even know it. Like some people may have heard a baby crying, like just when you were holding, and the smell of the baby shampoo and things like that. So that's where I was just with you on every step of your story. So thank you for coming forward with it.
Thank you.
You did a marvelous job. And you have more stories. I still love your story about the call center. So you have.
Yep, I've got a bunch of them.
You've got a bunch of them. Yeah, but the dialogue and the moments like where you're with Kate, like, Kate, we've got to do this. And the fact that the way you used your tone of voice when you were talking about your parents never indicated to me that they were like expecting you, but you could have done that. You could have made it look like that just simply by the way you may have changed the tone of your voice. Right? You never used anything sharp, but if your parents had been kind of grumpy during that, you could have shown that without having to say it in those words. So that's kind of the actor side of what happens, and why my logo looks like comedy and tragedy, is that every story does warrant a little bit of the inner actor that everybody really does hold. Did you think you held an inner actor like that?
Nope.
Did you find her?
I did. I'm finding her.
Yeah. Okay. Well, what I would love to do is, first off, thank everyone for being here again with our storytellers. And I'm hoping if you have questions now, it'd be great to maybe, can we pin the four speakers? And if there's any question that you have for any of us about this journey in storytelling, please, this is the time that I would love to explore that.